Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Born from Sin. I hope that you're doing very well this week. I hope that you had a great week last week. This week's episode is called Discovery. Since my mom passed away in June of last year, I've been going through a lot of different changes in my life, and I've been discovering who I am or who I'm meant to be. From the age of 4 to 11, I was very abused by my father, as many of you already know. And from the age of 11, I became a mother to my mother who was schizophrenic. Carried that label, and I carried that label around with me for many years. And nobody labeled me that way. I labeled myself that way. I made a post last night on Facebook. If you're not following me on Facebook, hop on Facebook and look up Danielle Sims. You'll see all my Born from Sin stuff. You'll know it's me. I posted last night on Facebook. It was one of those mirrored reflection posts. And it hit me hard when I posted that. Because for years, I looked at myself in the mirror and I never really knew who I was. All I saw was the abused little girl, the child that became a mother at a very young age to someone that wasn't even her own child. I became a mother, I became a wife, and each and every change that I went through, I saw something different in myself every time I looked in the mirror. Now, at the age of almost 54, I'm going through changes again. And it's something very natural for us to sit there and reflect back, especially as we get older, on stuff that we've gone through and how far we've come in our lives. I've been doing that a lot lately, especially since my mom passed away in June of last year, because for 42 years, I labeled myself as the girl with the schizophrenic mother, and I'm no longer that person. I'm no longer the girl with the schizophrenic mother that I have to take care of. And I really feel like I lost a very big part of me, and it's like it's gone and I can't get it back because my mom passed away. It has really played a lot on my mind, and it's really made me sit there and realize how far I've come in 54 years. I went from being the little girl that was abused by her father, who was molested, who was tortured many times. And at the age of 11, that changed for me because my father was removed from our home. Then I became the little girl that became a mother to a schizophrenic mom. And it wasn't until I reached my late teens, early 20s, that my life began to change again. I met my first husband. We got married. We had a child together. Then, unfortunately, the relationship didn't work out for us, and we went our separate ways, and we were divorced. Then in my mid-20s, I ended up meeting the father of my youngest child. As I've said before, I very much longed to have a family, and I was handed a large family. And then my second child came along, and now the family grew. And it was overwhelming. But I loved that I had a large family. I loved that I was given the opportunity that I always wanted. It became something that broke me like my childhood did. Then in my 30s, I sat back and I again reflected on, all right, so I'm 30 now. I'm no longer married. I'm no longer in this abusive relationship. what am I doing with my life? Where am I going? And I dated a few people, didn't work out, and then my path finally crossed with my now husband. And again, we have known each other since 1986, so our relationship was very comfortable right from the beginning. And it made it a little easier for us to fall in love and to get to re-know each other. We've always been a part of each other's lives because of my brother-in-law, his brother. We were always updated by his brother on what was going on in his life or in mine. So we already knew that, each other had been married and, we had children and all that stuff. When our paths crossed many years later and we started dating, it felt like we had still been together since 1986. And that all the stuff that we had gone through, it almost felt like it never existed. We formed a really big bond. We went through a lot of similar situations in both of our relationships. My husband has two children, one with his first wife, and then one with a relationship that he was in, very similar to myself. I had my first child with my first husband, and then my long-term relationship, I had my second child. And both of us went through some pretty big ordeals during our times with these other people. And because of the things that we had been through in our past relationships, we were able to connect a lot more because we knew that we didn't want to be with someone that wasn't going to be true to who we were. We were tired of trying to please others. We knew that we were amazing people. We just had to find the right person to appreciate how awesome we both are. And that's why we gel so well together. In my 40s, my relationship with my husband grew even more. We went through a lot of good times and we went through a heck of a lot of bad times. We went through both of our mothers being very ill. His mother ended up having cancer. We went through not being able to be together because we were both taking care of our moms, so we barely saw each other. And it didn't break our bond because we knew that when we did get home, that the other person would be there waiting with open arms. And that really made a big difference for him and I both. We built up a lot of trust that we both never had in prior relationships. We built up a bond of being able to be ourselves and not feel judged by anything that we're about to tell the other person because we've both been through hell and back. And that right there was probably the biggest part of my husband and I bonding. He made me realize that I had to go through certain things in my life for us to get to where we are now. He has taught me that being with the right person will take you so much further than being with the wrong person. And My first husband was a great man. Don't get me wrong here. He was truly wonderful. We got married very young, thought we were doing, and found out that we both had different goals in life. We went our separate ways. I remarried and he remarried, and as far as I'm concerned, we are both literally with the person that we were meant to actually be with. And I wish him and his new wife nothing but the best. They are both fantastic people. But at the same time, I ended up in a relationship after that was very abusive. And I kicked myself for years for not hanging on to that first marriage. I really did. Thought to myself many of times, if I were still with my ex-husband, I wouldn't be going through this right now. I wouldn't have my head being smashed off a cement floor, being choked. He was not abusive that way. And for that I thank him, because I don't know what I would have done leaving an abusive relationship and then going right back into another abusive relationship. I think that probably would have broke me even more. So thankfully, my first marriage was not a physically abusive or mentally abusive relationship. Um, my second relationship definitely was, and it broke me in many ways. It really made me think sometimes that I was only good enough for somebody for sex. It made me feel like less of a person. It made me feel dirty. Really brought back that pretty ugly feeling. Those words that my dad used to use when I was a kid. Pretty ugly. Brought a whole lot of that back. And then, as I was saying, I met my now husband, and we've been together 17 years. It's crazy. And we've had many of, ups and downs. He was in a car accident that took his mining career away from him. I ended up getting very ill during that time because of the stress that I went through, and finding out that I had fibromyalgia. We had no money coming in. We almost became completely homeless. Like, we've gone through a lot together. But man, we've built so much together at the same time. We have both changed our lives around. And we both would love nothing more than to be able to fully show our children that we are becoming better people. As we move forward, and we've got about another month for the big news with my husband, which is fantastic. It's just anxiety building up now, waiting for the moment to be able to announce what's going on. I'm very excited. I'm very proud of him. And the other day, I did something a little crazy. So I entered myself in an entrepreneur competition. A few years ago, I had actually entered myself in an online cooking competition, and it was sponsored by a magazine, and as well as Carlo Hall, the chef from Master Chef. When that competition had started, I was like super pumped about it. I love cooking. I'm very passionate about it. And because of the crap that my husband and I had been through, I literally became the queen of making something out of nothing. I turned ketchup into spaghetti sauce, like, because we were dirt poor, and we had pretty much nothing in our cupboards, and we had to make food. So I did what I had to do to make us something that was at least edible and was not going to poison us. I became very passionate when we got back on our feet about being able to cook because I love cooking. I love creating recipes. I'm a very interesting cook. I can take the peel from a grapefruit and turn it into candy. I can also take the pith of the grapefruit, which is like the white interior inside the peel itself. I can take that, remove it, and turn it into a vegan chicken sandwich. So when this cooking competition came across my Facebook a few years ago, I signed up. I was like, yep, I'm going to do this. And then I messaged my husband, let him know, and he was so pumped and excited for me. And then I messaged my best friend Chantal and let her know, and she was cheering me on before it even started. And then Chantal died. It was April the 20th. I was literally in my kitchen creating a new recipe. And a few days prior, Chantal had been in the hospital and she was back home and she was waiting on going in for surgery. So we all knew that she wasn't doing well, but we didn't realize how bad her health really was. April 20th. I'm in my kitchen. I've got a banana peel in one hand and a knife in the other, and my phone goes off. And it says Chantal. I was like, I'll call her back in a few minutes. I just want to finish up what I'm doing, and then I'll check my message. I'll let her go to voicemail. She knows I'll call her back. And then for some reason or other, I was like, it's not like her to call me during the day. So I'm gonna stop what I'm doing. I'm gonna wash my hands and I'm gonna check my messages. That's what I did. Was it Chantal who had left a message? It was her husband. And I called him back. And that's when I got the news that Chantal had died. And after I hung up the phone, I went outside. I told my husband because he was fixing the roof on our shed. And he came inside and I was on the floor in a ball, curled up, bawling. My whole world had just fallen apart. The one person in this world that I never, ever thought I would ever have to live without was gone. Biggest cheerleader, even before I met my husband. My husband's been my biggest cheerleader, but Chantal cheered me on for 30 plus years. That woman was my world, and my world had just been taken away from me. And my cooking competition became a little less interesting for me. And for about a week, I just literally sat on my couch depressed. I couldn't move. I was like a zombie. It's like someone had taken my left arm away. I had such a huge piece of me missing. I just couldn't figure out how to put it back together. And then one day I woke up and I don't know, I kind of snapped out of the depression a little bit and focused on things that I needed to get done. And I decided that I was going to continue on with my cooking competition because I knew that if Chantal were still here, she would be cheering me on because she loved my cooking. So I did my very, very best in that competition. I posted very cool stuff like I smoked a watermelon. It was pretty awesome. It almost tasted like a Christmas ham. I turned the pith of a grapefruit into a chicken sandwich. I was doing a whole vegan thing. I was a very interesting home cook in the competition because I pretty much was the only vegan home cook in the competition. So the day the competition started, I was actually in Sudbury, Ontario at Chantal's funeral. The hardest thing I had to do that day was to try and pretend that I was okay and to post, hey, please vote for me in this cooking competition. I was so broken. I honestly felt like I had betrayed my best friend that day, and it hurt. And each and every post that I made that I asked people to vote for me, although I was confident in what I was doing, all I could think about was that very, very first post that I made the day the competition started at her funeral. So, the other day, I was on Facebook after making the post about the reflecting and how we see each other and how we should be looking at ourselves in the mirror and not seeing the bags under our eyes or the wrinkles that we've gotten over the years or the gray hairs. What we should be seeing is the little girl that was abused and made it out. The little girl that became a woman, went through hell and back, and is still here today sharing her story. A woman that, although far from perfect, every day gets up and tries to create a new life for herself. Something's positive because she's never had that before. It's a very, very empowering. As you get older, as you go through each age and stage of your life, you're going to look at yourself completely differently. And now at the age of almost 54, I'm no longer that little abused girl. I'm no longer the mom of a schizophrenic mom. I am Danielle Sims. I am a very happily married woman that appreciates being alive every single day. Every morning that I wake up, the first thing I do is I am thankful for another day because one day I will no longer be here. So I'm thankful for each and every single day that I am given to improve who I am, to hopefully make amends with my past. I'm thankful each morning that I open my eyes, that I have a brand new day for a fresh start at being a better person than I was before because I've made mistakes in my life. I most certainly have. I am still dealing with the repercussions, I guess you could say, from my past. I have the one child that has removed me from their lives, and as much as it hurts, as much as I wish that they could, come back around and realize that I'm not, I don't know, the monster that they think that I am, but that's that's okay. I will heal through this as they are healing through their age and their stage right now. And one of these days, hopefully, that communication will be opened back up again and we can go from there. So after making that mirror image post on Facebook, I ended up scrolling through for a little bit more before bedtime. And I came across an ad. It was very similar to the cooking competition that I had been in. Same idea, where you enter yourself into a competition and people will need to vote on it. And it starts not this Monday coming, but the following Monday. And I'm very, very excited for this opportunity. And I'm not saying I'm going to win by any means. There's going to be a lot of people with a lot of talent out there. But what I'm hoping is that if I do win this competition, that I can grow my podcast, that I reach a lot more followers on Facebook and on TikTok and all my social media platforms. I want to be able to spread my message. I want to be able to share what it's like to be the age that I'm at now, still healing through some stuff, but after healing through so much more, I want to be able to show people that looking in the mirror, you should be thankful for another opportunity to become a better person. You should be thankful for another day to heal. You should be able to look in that mirror and see confidence. You should be able to look in that mirror and see someone who's made it through hell and back. You should be able to look in that mirror and see the person that you have become. And each and every morning that you look in that mirror, the person that you are becoming and are meant to be. Take care, and we'll talk next week.